And we're live a little late, so this stream won't be as long. But the Colts had made some very interesting moves in the past couple weeks. As 2 weeks ago, well, I guess we should say over the last 10 or so days, the Colts had fired their offensive coordinator, Marcus Brady, which I don't agree with. I still don't agree with. He wasn't calling the plays. If anything should have happened last week, it should have been, Frank, we're taking the play calling duties away from you. You should concentrate on something else. Because right now, this team, before playing New England, 3-4-1. And at this point of the year, we still have a chance to fight for this division. As insane as that sounds. And that's still the case a week later. But if you are a Colts fan, you're like, what is going on? Because then a week later you fire Frank Reich, and then a couple hours after that you hire ESPN analyst Jeff Saturday to be the head coach. This is a guy who has no coaching experience. And Jim Irsay said, well, the reason why we took him is because he doesn't have the fear of the experience. He doesn't have the fear of being fired from a job like this. And therefore, he won't play scared. The analytics won't be a factor, and maybe we can build on this a little bit. And maybe he's the coach of the future, maybe he isn't. But at least throughout this year, if it goes well, Colts fans are going to be singing from the rooftops, or it's a long 2.5 months, maybe. Now, I saw a lot of things that say Irsay hiring Jeff Saturday, as the head coach proves that the Rooney Rule doesn't exist, or only exists depending on situation, and various other ways to explain it. But let me tell you something. The Rooney Rule only exists if we're doing a coaching search. Since Frank Reich was fired during the season, Irsay's owned the team for 25 years. In 25 years, the one head coach that he's fired in 25 years, midway through a season, is Frank Reich. He's the only guy. Anyone that Irsay has fired has been after the season started. Before the season, or in the off season, never in the middle. And so Frank Reich being fired, I don't think came as a shocker. The offense looked stale. It looked stale beyond belief. The offensive line looked atrocious. They were against New England. They gave up 9 sacks. And a lot of it was on the same play that they ran. Judon had, I believe, 3 sacks on the same play, which Judon would start off at his position, at his end position, and then curl around what is called a stunt, where the defensive tackle is going to take the right tackle and push him back and try and get the guard to go with him. And then the end's just going to go around and get a free run at the quarterback. And that's what happened. I know it happened twice. Possibly it happened the third time. This offensive line could not protect whoever's back there. It could be Matt Ryan. It could be Sam Ellinger. It could be Nick Foles. It could be someone that works at a gas station. It doesn't matter. This team couldn't protect anyone if they tried. Their running game is non-existent, and they struggle beyond belief. And on defense, that's probably the best unit. And yet they're just having to go back on the field because their offense can't do anything. Now, Saturday did make an interesting decision for a new play caller. He decided to go within the organization and bring in Parks Frazier, who was a team assistant, and is now going to call the plays. He's 30 years old, and it's a long season. I've heard a lot of people say it's a circus. And I've had a lot of people say it's a traveling circus because it's all over the place. RSA did say that this team does not believe in tanking and they won't tank. Well, at this point, I think it's over now. You've won too many games to say, yeah, we're going to tank. Like, it's just not going to happen. Houston doesn't look like they're going to win more than a game this year. The Lions have won a couple, but there's teams. The Lions have won 2, but then there's teams. Right now, the Colts are 15th in the draft right now because there's a lot of 3-win teams. And I think for the Colts, unless something happens and you get great draft position, are you going to be able to get a quarterback at 15? The answer is no. If that's your goal, it's just not going to happen. So now, with Frank Reich's firing, I am posing the question, who's going to get fired next as the head coach? Who's going to get their head coach fired next? I honestly think it's going to be Josh McDaniels, who the Colts do face this upcoming week, because I don't trust them. Their offense is hit or miss, to say the least, and their defense has been terrible, absolutely terrible. As you bring in Chandler Jones to help out Max Crosby on the other side. That should be a guaranteed hit. Instead, it's not, for whatever reason. And then you decide to release one of your starting safeties in Jonathan Abrams. There was apparently some trade talks that broke down during the trade deadline. It just didn't happen. And I know a lot of teams were high on him, but this is what happens when your team isn't very good and you got a young player who has, I guess you could say, very little skins on the wall. It's not going to happen. It just isn't. So now they released him. But the problem is with the Raiders is I don't understand that move. Are we pending to see if this offense can do something and potentially get them to 7 wins? Or are we waiting to say, nope, bye, Josh, we're going to go in a different direction? Which I think they almost have to. This obviously isn't working. I was skeptical when they had the first preseason game and Josh Jacobs was playing. And he played a lot in that game. I was skeptical of that. But if I'm the Raiders, Darren Waller hasn't played yet. He still has the hamstring issue. At what point do we say, man, we're a good team, but we're not going in the right direction? At what point is that conversation happening? The Packers have lost Rashawn Gary to a torn ACL. Gary led the league in tackles. They have also lost Stokes, their corner, the second year corner, that he could miss time. Then there's the fact that David Bakhtiari isn't playing a full game and he misses time after. So there's concern on that of what, like we've talked about this before with Bakhtiari. An ACL injury is a devastating injury to say the least. But 20 months, almost 2-year rehab of this injury, and still you're barely on the field as it is. Either you have the confidence in the world, you have the most confidence in the world that you will get right and next year you will play every snap of every game, or you're going to say, no, I'm done because I don't want to go play a week and then be off 2 weeks. The same thing if you remember a few years ago when Julian Edelman came to that realization of he realized I have no more cartilage in my knee. So I can play a week or two, but then I take off 2 or 3 weeks. And then I go play. Do I really want to do that? And he said, no, I don't want to. And so he retired. David Bakhtiari may have to come to that realization as well. I'm not going to make a big deal on the Rodgers interceptions. There was one that was probably really bad. You got one that deflected off the helmet. I mean, people can say this because we're not seeing the game happen in real time, essentially. We're not on the field seeing what's happening and having to make these decisions. You go for it on a 4th down on a tackle eligible play, and the ball just doesn't get there. Hutchinson makes a great interception, and I don't understand that reason of going for it. I would have kicked the field goal probably in that spot because it was no points anyway. I would have kicked the field goal. But the third one I'll say was Rodgers' fault because he undershot the guy. He undershot Robert Tonyan and Kirby Joseph, who had an interception. Had the first interception, made a great play on it. But if anything, that was Rodgers' fault. But I'm not going to make a big deal of it because I think this offense has underachieved immensely. And it's not just him. There's a problem on the offensive line. There's a problem at the wide receiver position because you got a lot of young guys. You lose Romeo Doubs for an extended period of time, about 4 to 6 weeks. And Randall Cobb is not there because he's injured. So you're relying on 3 players or so that one of them, Lazard, has been with you for a long time. However, you don't have the same chemistry that you did with Devontae Adams. You bring in Sammy Watkins in the offseason, and he's a good veteran player. There's nothing wrong with that. But he's missed time too with an injury. And sometimes you're not on the same page with him. And then you got Christian Watson, who hasn't played a whole lot, has been mostly their trick play guy, and he's been injured. He's had concussion issues. So then you get the run game, and there's some good things about that, but it's difficult when teams are just going to keen in on that and say, okay, beat us through the air. Especially when you only score 9 points against the worst defense in the NFL, who gives up the most points. Like, if you only get 9 points against the worst defense in the NFL. And yes, you can say, well, we move the ball up and down the field. Sure. Doesn't mean it. Did you score? The answer is no. Aaron Jones did, in fact, get rolled up on his ankle. According to what it was said, he's not supposed to miss any time, but we'll see. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., is expected to be cleared this week, and there's supposed to be a bidding war. The teams that I would think he's interested are in teams that have a very good chance to go make some noise in the playoffs. Wait, maybe even just get to the playoffs. So I think that counts the Rams out because I don't think the Rams are very good this year. Obviously takes out the Cardinals. I think it would be fine if he went to the Cardinals. It'd probably be fun for him to play with Kyler, but I don't think he would. If anything, the two teams I could see him play for are the Giants and the Cowboys. Because the Giants, he already has a relationship with the Mara family. But with the Cowboys, you're going to get the better quarterback, the better offense. You're not going to be asked to do as much, and you can still It's going to the Cowboys in this situation is like going to the Rams last year for you. A team that they're really good. They can be really good. They've lost a couple games, but when they're on, they seem almost unstoppable at times. And bringing in Odell would not be the worst thing for the Cowboys anyway. They need some wide receiver help. I know they feel that James Washington's that guy. I don't see it. Plus, there is nothing wrong with bringing in Odell. Now, the thing is, what's the finances look like? What's the deal? I think OBJ said he wanted a deal like Michael Gallup. Well, Michael Gallup's making 60 plus million a year, 63 million a year for 5 years. I don't know how long term you're going to get a contract at this point of the year. We're in November. The likelihood that you go and have a long term contract, I don't see that. Maybe the Cowboys can go, or maybe one of these teams goes and say, hey, take the 1 year and then cash in the offseason. I think he was actually going to do that when he was with the Rams, and then he got hurt. That happens. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So if I'm OBJ, I'm looking at more of who do I want to play with? Who do I think I can play with? The Bills are reportedly interested, and so are the Chiefs. The Bills are an interesting team, I think, because the Bills, in my opinion, don't look right at different points of times. But I also think you're going to pay a lot of money for him to be your fourth guy. And he's not going to play to December. You got Diggs, Davis, McKenzie. Do you really need a fourth guy and spend a lot of money? I don't see that. And there's a lot of other teams you can say that about too. But I don't really see it. Baltimore, I think, is a sleeper because I think they need some wide receiver help. However, I don't think he wants to be part of a run-first offense. So that's why I'm saying the Giants and the Cowboys seem a lot more like likely bets. Because with the Giants, he has a relationship with the Mara family. But with the Cowboys, the relationship he has with the Cowboys is his family all lives in Texas. His family's all Cowboys fans. I'm just wondering what the finances look like if that deal does transpire. And again, he's only going to be able to play. Like, he gets cleared hopefully this week, but he's only going to be able to play maybe late December, maybe mid-December if you're lucky. So I don't see it may even take like a week or two before he signs anywhere, and then makes his, I guess you could say, triumphant return. We'll see. The Josh Allen injury is a very interesting injury to say the least. From my understanding, Sean McDermott won't announce what the injury is. From a lot of different perspectives, we've heard that it's a UCL injury, which is typically a pitching injury. It's in your elbow. It's the strain of your elbow getting too far extended or getting overused. And what you would have to do if that's the case, you will have to get what is considered Tommy John surgery, which is where they go into your elbow and clean it up and fix it and all that stuff. And if you're Josh Allen, like there's no idea. You have to play almost. You don't trust whoever is behind you in this situation. And so that's the latest of it is it's supposed to be, according to McDermott, it's a day-to-day. The likelihood of his playing is high, obviously. But I don't see any reason that Josh Allen shouldn't play either. Because you're going to go against these teams again. You got to go against New England twice. You got to go against the Dolphins and the Jets again. You got to do those two one more time. So we'll see. But at this point, I wouldn't, unless it's really bad, then otherwise, let him go and see what happens. Because he's your best. If you don't have him, you don't have anybody on that offense. There was news of Ezekiel Elliott, the likelihood of him playing. He said he wants to play. He wants to be put back in action. He did get a really big shot on his knee from when he was playing against the Lions. When the Cowboys played against the Lions, he just got a helmet straight to the knee. It looked like his knee hyperextended. And we said that he shouldn't play if they're going to rest him, given the bye week as well, and then see what happens. And that's what they did. And just get ready for Green Bay, which it looks like he's doing. He didn't practice on Monday. We'll see later in the week on what happens. Finally, we're going to talk about ESPN again. We did this last week. We're going to do it again. ESPN on overdoing it, I guess you could say. When what is considered a watch party or watch along, where on another, in another building or section of the building, that you're watching either a sport, an entertainment, or whatever, is considered a watch along. Well, ESPN started to do this with the Manning cast. They were like, man, we got to boost our ratings. How do we do this? And they decided for years to just put a whole new commentary group together and see how it works and everything like that. But for that year, they decided, you know what, let's go see if the Mannings want to do it. Both of them are retired. Let's see what we got. And the Mannings agreed to do it. They did it for about 10 weeks. Not all at once, but for 10 weeks. And it was highly entertaining. The problem that ESPN now had was people started watching more of the Manning cast than the actual broadcast. So they got what they wanted. They want more people to be tuned into the game. They just got on the wrong broadcast. And I think a lot of that is when you put people in the broadcasting booth that sound the same, it gets very convoluted. And then have a game that is really bad, that it's one-sided, or there's a whole lot of punting. People don't aren't going to want to see that. The people or the fans of the team are, but not the casual viewers. They just don't want to see that. And with the Manning cast, it brought them to say, hey, the Mannings are going on tonight. Let's go watch that. And that's what they would do. But when you have announcers like Levy, Greasy, and Riddick that all sound the same, sound the exact same. The only reason why you knew Levy was because he was the play-by-play guy. He was the play-by-play announcer. Greasy and Riddick sound the exact same, so you don't know if what he's saying is actually smart or what he's saying doesn't make any sense to the people, to the audience. So that's what you find yourself in. Then, again, the game's not being good doesn't help. And the main cast would. And they decided to do it again. I wouldn't be surprised if they would continue to do it. Wouldn't be surprised at that at all. The problem is ESPN's now overdone it again. They find this problem. They start, like, for an example, they had one debate show, one show that transformed into another show. Then it built onto another show. Now we have two shows, two debate shows. And now that went from 2 debate shows to 4 debate shows. And you see where I'm going with this. It becomes too much. Well, then, at the end of the year, of the first season of the Manning cast, Peyton Manning's production company went to his former teammate Pat McAfee and said, hey, you do this. You're great on television. We want to do sort of like a Manning cast for college. Would you be okay in doing that? But she's like, yeah, because I'm already doing game day on ESPN, so I'm fine with doing it. And it is really exciting. A great college atmosphere. The problem is that's not ESPN. So it worked there because those guys are very entertaining. They do a great job. The problem is ESPN saw that and kept doing it. They kept finding places and say, hey, let's do it. They're doing it for the WNBA. It doesn't work. They're doing it. They now have Stephen A. trying to do it for the NBA. It doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work for the NBA is the game moves too fast. The game moves too fast. There's not a lot of time up. There's not a lot of period breaks to say, yep, this guy is going to have like 40 seconds of talking or be able to get in and get out. And just, let's get to the next play. Like in the NFL, when the play ends, it gives those commentators enough time to say what they were trying to say, to show what happened on the play. For the NBA, that's not the case. It's just not the case at all. And I think the second reason of that is the reason why it's not watched is Stephen A. We've seen him for years. He's been a debater. He's always in a debate show. I mean, he does NBA Countdown, so that's what it is. But that's only for ratings, more or less. But he's in a debate show, and that's what people come and watch him is in a debate. No one wants to go see him sit on his couch and talk. They just don't care. Because it's just not interesting. It's not what they like. They see him in a debate show era, that's what they want. And if you are the audience, that's what you plan to see. So when he goes and sits on his couch, doesn't sound really interested in what he's talking about, it's kind of like, why are you having him do this? Why are you having him do this? It doesn't work. You've overdone it again. You tried, and they've done it for baseball too, and it's a little easier in baseball because there's a lot of there's pauses. Even in at bat, there's a pause period. So it's not impossible, but there's some of these things that ESPN just tries too hard. This was that, in trying to have Stephen A. go and try and do this. Now, if you found this entertaining in any possible way, or just enjoy seeing me rant, I would hope that you would hit the like button and also subscribe. It's free and there's no questions asked about it. And I hope you would join me again on another stream.